Hello everyone, so we have our quilt top all done and we are ready to start basting it. So I've got my backing fabric, which is just a cotton solid. It's a light pink, it's showing more white here, but I'm putting it wrong side up so the pretty side is touching the table. And then I'm going to be taking my batting and trying to center it a bit. Yes, I can see that they are not the same size, but we need that for later on. We're going to put the quilt top on there now, and we want to make sure that the quilt top is facing pretty sides up. So we have our quilt sandwich here, and we're just going to make sure everything's nice and smooth and flat, no wrinkles anywhere, before we can start basting it. I'm going to be using these pins. They have a nice little curve on them. They're perfect for this. They're quilt basting pins. I got them from Pat Quarter Shop. I'll link them down below. I always start in the middle and then I work my way out. Yeah, and at this point, I haven't realized my mistake yet. I want to do the crosshatch quilting lines. I should have really marked my lines before I put the pins in. I just ended up having to remove pins and everything. It just took me a lot longer than I care to admit this. I swear I took 2 scoops of stupid instead of sugar this morning in my coffee. I don't know. Basic math was just eluding me. This is a very simple process. You just need to measure out how far apart you want your quilting lines to be and then use your tape to mark your lines. It's simple. I wanted my quilt lines to be 2 inches apart, and somehow I ended up with 2 1/4, except for 2 spots, they were 2 inches apart. But it's okay, mistakes happen, and it is up to you to decide whether or not these mistakes are going to bother you. This one, it's not going to bother me. It's just a small wall quilt. It's going to be hanging up in my room, and it's not really noticeable. Nobody's going to see it unless I point it out. So I'm just going to leave it. By the time I realized what I had done, I was too far to the finish line. I wasn't going to unpick all my stitches and redo it. It just wasn't worth it for me. But yeah, so I just kept on marking my lines diagonally. I went from the center to the corner, and then I turned it around and went the other way. And I'm not going to be sewing right beside my tape because I don't want to risk puncturing the tape. So I have my machine set up to sew an accurate 1/4 inch seam, and then I'm just going to butt the edge of my presser foot up against that tape, and that way I can go. I do have my walking foot on. This is highly recommended if you're going to be sewing through multiple layers. It's just a painstakingly slow process. It is a walking foot, so you can't go too fast. I am wearing quilting gloves for this. It makes it a lot easier to grip the fabric and move it along nicer. And you want to make sure that you have your palms flat and then just kind of pull the fabric taut so that you don't end up with a bunch of puckers in there. When one of my sisters saw me quilting with my gloves on, she's like, "Oh, they make gloves for sewing now?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, they do. It makes life a lot easier." And now that I have finished all the rows going in one direction, I'm going to be marking my next row. Again, using my masking tape and tape measure. And then once that's done, I will start in the middle again and work my way towards the right. Just moving my fabric and rolling it up if I need to push it through there. I'm hoping to get a bigger machine for quilting one day. Mine is just a small one that I got off of Amazon, but it works. I've done twin size on this one and a lap size. So if you want to make a quilt, you can make a quilt even on a small machine. You just have to want to do it. And I am on my last line of stitching here for my quilting, and that is always exciting for me when I'm this close to the end. And once I finish all my quilting rows, I'm going to go around the outer edge and just sew that top down. Doing this helps me with squaring up. It makes it a little bit easier, and if I can make it easier, I'm going to do it. And then to square it up, I'm just going to take my long ruler and lay the edge flush with the edge of my quilt top. And if you need to, just kind of tug on the batting a little bit to make that line even, and then just trim it up all the way around. Just make sure you're pressing firmly on your ruler and you don't accidentally slip and cut into your quilt top. And now I'm going to double check my corners and make sure that they're nice and square. So I'm using my 6.5 inch ruler here. And I just want to make sure that that line is nice and flush all the way along. If it's not, I will either trim it or just use my heat erasable pen to mark a line so that I know where I need to sew my binding onto. I have linked the playlist to the Love Note mini series that I did on the screen here, so if you want to check those out, feel free. Thank you so much for watching.